Welcome, everybody. Do you want to begin, Helen?
Sure. Hi. Yeah, we're planning to talk, just like explain very briefly about what an AP is. That isn't really the sort of purpose of this evening because we've done lots of other sessions about what is an AP, so we're not going to spend too long talking about that. We're sort of presuming that you know what an AP is. Um, and then we're going to talk about sort of each of the APs that we're offering with Dumox. We're not offering all the APs, there's quite a few we are offering. So that's the plan. And then, hopefully, if you want to ask questions, then we'll have plenty of time for people to ask any questions. So we're gonna, yeah, just to say briefly explain what an AP is, and then we'll go on to explaining the actual individual ones. So maybe to start off by saying I'm Helen, and Jenny is my other partner. We both live in England. I live over near Bath and sort of west of England. Uh, I've got seven children, all of which have done an American program. I've got one still at home, and six have gone to university, either in the States or in the UK. So it works. It kind of as a way of getting into university and as a way of getting kind of qualifications, it does work. Okay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah,
You're
I'm,
distracted by
yeah,
the
sorry.
tech.
I'm
It's always
letting
distracting. I
people
know
in
it's always
as well. Yeah, yeah.
it's always
I'm Jenny,
distracting.
as Helen says. It's funny because we happen to both have seven children that are similar ages to each other. I've just got two left homeschooling because they're twins, and Helen has one. But yeah, same thing. We love the American system and think that it just fits homeschooling really well in this country, and it seems to work and do the trick. So we're happy with it. Do you want me to share screens,
Sure.
Helen?
Yeah. Yeah, please.
I hope I can still let people in as I'm doing this. Second. Oh, get this. I can. We've introduced ourselves. So over to you, Helen.
Uh, we're going to record and then we'll share it on Facebook and things, or just email us. Just email us at Demox. Someone's just asking where they can get a recording from.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Uh, okay, so there's three sort of sections. I just find it easier to think of it as sort of three pillars. There's the high school diploma bit, there's the SAT bit, and there's the APs bit. Don't necessarily have to do them all, but you kind of almost cover all your bases by doing all of it. We personally, I've done it all. We've sort of like done all those kind of like sections, but not everybody does, and that's a kind of I don't know a bigger topic really to kind of go into that. But just to you've probably heard of the diploma, probably heard of SATs, and you've probably heard of APs, but there's like the three sort of parts to it all, or three sort of things that people do. So the high school diploma part is. Do you want to go to the next slide? There's a So this is what it looks like. So there's a couple of people that are sort of really sort of targeting the British market. I don't know whether everyone here is from the UK or from America. And obviously in America, then uh, there's umpteen, there's loads of different places that you can get your high school diploma from. In the UK, there's something called Homeschool Directive, and this Home Life Academy. They're the sort of two people that seem to be trying to recruit British families and it's just grown enormously. It's grown enormously in the last couple of years. There's a sort of Facebook group that it's close to 4,000 people in the Facebook group now doing it. Um, it's There are sort of like you usually do four grades of it. So you've got grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. So you can see each kind of block there is each of the grades, and you do courses in each grade, and you get a grade for those courses, and you total up how many courses you've done at the end of it, and the kind of average of all your grades. So that's your grade point average, and you can see there on the sort of bottom towards the bottom right, it says 25 credits. So this child's got 25 credits, and they've got a GPA of 3.29. So if you've got all A's, you'd have a GPA of 4. If you've got all B's, you'd have a GPA of 3, and they've obviously got somewhere in the middle. And that's so you can start the high school diploma a bit early. You can do it in 3 years. There has to be certain things in it. So there has to be some English in it and some maths in it and science in it. But there is a lot of flexibility. It can be exams. You can do exams. You cannot do exams, and your parents can like mark the work, and then it can get accredited by one of these organizations. Some people do GCSEs, they want to do GCSEs in English and maths as part of it. So that, quite a lot of British families might, have a GCSE. So you'll do say a 2-year GCSE, and you'll get a credit in grade 9 for that and a credit in grade 10 for that. That's what a lot of British families are doing.
Be interesting to know actually all the people who are here, if you don't mind, share it in the chat maybe. I don't know if we've got any Americans on here maybe. Or if you're some people, I don't know, are people choosing APs at the moment, or are they even got to that stage, or is it the interest because it's maybe coming up? And I don't know, be interesting to know where people are at the moment, so we can hopefully.
If anyone from the US, I suppose that'd be one thing. No one's from the US, then we won't
Yeah,
talk about the US.
yeah.
um,
Otherwise we'll just keep
keep it
keep
about British.
talking.
um, yeah, so you can include vocational work. It's been much more flexible for us, and you can get help with a transcript from sort of like various organisations. But is it enough? Is it enough qualifications? And the answer is kind of generally no. It's generally not enough. It's equivalent to 5 GCSEs. That's the other thing you could say, that there's an organisation that you can sign up with, or not really sign up with. It's an organisation that will transfer it to something else, and you'll transfer it to a British qualifications, and it's equivalent to 5 GCSEs.
Of course, it's usually equivalent to much more than that, but that's all
Sure.
that
Yeah.
because they don't know.
Yeah.
That's just what they'll give it.
Yeah. And then the next part is the SAT. Someone there saw in the chat, they just mentioned something called the CLT. I mean, you can do the CLT, but the problem is that British universities don't recognise it. So, my kids did the CLT, and it was useful
Which
for
is a
American.
classical learning test, right?
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
got more of a classical slant,
Yeah, yes, but it's
but
not.
similar to the SAT, would you say?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. But because it's not recognised by British universities, it's not. Uh, but yeah, it's just different. I mean, it's a good thing to do, but in terms of getting to a British university or British employment, then it's not going to be as good. So the SAT is the second part of it, and this is a English and maths exam, and it's a digital exam now. Highest score is 1600. I did an SAT prep class this afternoon with some students. It's multiple choice. You can use a calculator for all the maths part of it now. Get your results in about 3 weeks. The English part of it is one part of it's reading comprehension and one part of it's grammar. So it's not like a theme text. Sorry, it's not like a learned text. You don't have to like learn particular Shakespeare and answer questions on that. It's just like an unseen question paper that you answer questions on. And the grammar part of it is not. I don't know. Is that a I don't know, predicate nominative or something? It's not like that. But it's like reading a passage and then you have to kind of correct the grammar of it, or like through multiple choice questions. It's a very, I don't know, you can really target exam practice for it. Khan's very good. Um, yeah, so yeah, that's the SAT, and your local posh school. That's kind of where most people do it. And then
Then the
sorry,
next part is what we're
yeah,
really here to talk about.
yeah. So the APs.
Is the APs.
Uh, so we did our kids did the American route, and then it got to, our eldest were approaching university age, and then we sort of thought, oh, this isn't going to work. They're not going to have what they needed for university. Not that all kids need to go to university, but you probably, you might want them to have A-level equivalents to get into employment, or A-level equivalents to get into apprenticeships. So we started looking at what was out there, and because we've been doing an American system, it seemed sensible to look with that, continue with that. So we started to look at APs. So they're accepted as equivalent to A levels. The big plus is that they only take 1 year to do. So if you're doing, so I know some people are doing things like classical conversations, and it just doesn't take over your life in the same way that an A level might. So if you do A levels, you do 3 A levels. That's pretty much it. You can't do much else. But we're doing a classical curriculum with our kids, and we have been able to continue doing that up to 18, and also do APs on the side, as it were, which which we're really happy about. So there is this exam jump hooping that you've got to do, but if you don't have to, if it doesn't have to kind of dominate your whole life. So my son this year, for example, he's 16, he's doing one AP this year, and he's just been able to continue everything else, but just sort of do one AP, and it's not like doing an A level where that would sort of be most of his time, or certainly if he was doing three A levels. And your APs can also go on your high school diploma, so they could be on your high school diploma. You can count for credit, and it would also be you'd also get the exam qualification. It's
Somebody's asking, Helen, sorry, that are
Sorry, go
APs
ahead.
worth it if you're not planning on going to uni?
Well, it's like if you are kind of A level. I suppose the question is, are A levels worth it? So is
Mm.
it, um, so if you're not interested in if your child's not interested in A levels, then and they're going to do something else. So they're going to go to college, then yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do APs. But if you've got a child that's interested in apprenticeships, or there's so many things that you can do at 18, like so many different courses that you can do. Even if it's not university.
Mm.
So there's so many different things you could do. So it's but
So
it's
like a job or something, you could say, if you're applying for any kind of job, I've got American qualifications, but they're equivalent to 5 GCSEs and two or
mhm,
three A levels.
sure,
If
yeah. I
that's
mean,
what you had, even if you just had one,
yeah,
yeah. If you think of it like that, then I suppose they're useful for anything.
yeah. But APs are for an academic child.
Yeah.
If you're not academic, then do the high school diploma. So recommend doing the high school diploma. But not that. So I can't talk and pick up the questions in the chat. So
No, keep
I'll
going, Helen.
so I'll talk, but then I'll go
Yeah.
back and answer the questions in the chat. I
Yeah.
can't do both. But yeah. So so we're really happy to talk. I mean, maybe we should just take questions. Maybe we should just look through the questions on the chat, because what we're going to do now is just going to go through each of the APs and just say a little bit about the APs. But maybe it's
Yeah, maybe this is a good point for
yeah,
a good chance for questions.
yeah. So sort the questions. So
Uh, Somebody says, I've heard that some unis want to see oh, um, 3 or 4 A levels sat at the same time. I assume they may want the same with APs rather than spread over 2 or 3 years.
um, I mean, not really. I mean, I think that I've seen so in Ireland, I think that has people have said that's the case, but I think there might be like one university that says that, but not really. I think maybe Oxford or Cambridge, but only one of those two have said that. But I mean, no, I mean they just don't. I mean, I think I'm sure there'd be one university or something that has said that, but no, generally they don't seem to
Mhm.
require them all done in one go.
Yeah.
Um,
Roy Peachy is saying most unis are happy for them to be spread over several years.
And he's got a lot more experience than I
Yeah.
about contacting universities. So
Yeah. If you've got
um,
anything to contribute, Roy, please chip in.
yeah, do yeah.
Um,
How much are they? A lot cheaper than A levels. So I mean, I've heard people spending between 500 and 800 pounds on A levels. It's 100. We've spent 170 pounds on AP exams this year. It's a 2-hour exam in May, so it's what is one paper, and yeah, so it's cost 170 pounds. So it's loads cheaper than an A level.
Shall I quickly say something about
Sure,
universities, Helen?
sure. Yeah,
please
yeah.
do,
Go
Roy.
for it. Yeah.
So, as some of you know, I've contacted quite a lot of universities and asked them precisely that question about what they require. Lots of British universities, and they set it all out very, very clearly on their websites. Although you can ask them individually as well, and almost all of them are very happy for APs to be taken over several years, because that's what the Americans do. That's completely normal in America. I've got some American students who I teach in school, and they just do it. Perhaps one in the equivalent of our year 10, another one, or possibly two in year 11, and so on. So that is the norm. That's what universities are used to dealing with when they've got American students. So it's exactly the same for us if we're taking them over here.
I have heard in somebody, Claire's just saying they're in Ireland. I have
Mhm.
heard that mentioned in Ireland that it might be a
Yeah,
little bit different. Have you heard
yeah.
that, Roy? Or
Well, I've got some Irish students this year who I'm teaching AP to, and they're not doing they're doing a couple of APs, and that they seem to be completely fine. They're planning to go to university in Ireland, and that doesn't seem to be an issue for them. I'm not entirely sure which universities they're applying to, admittedly, so I could check up on that though.
Mm. So maybe it's just some particular or something, but we haven't come across it in England before that they're
No.
requiring that.
How many APs? If you want to go to Oxford or Cambridge, 5. If you want to go to King's, 5. But I suppose I should say that there are definitely some universities who don't need any APs. But basically, the better the university, the more APs you need. So I'd say that most good universities, you need 3. If you want to go to a top university, you need 5. And yeah, and if you just want to go to a not very good university, then you probably don't need any. So kind of basically, the better the university, the more APs you need.
Which would be parallel to A levels, I presume.
No, I think you
Same.
probably need A level. I think you probably need A levels for any university. But there are definitely some universities. But there are definitely some universities that you don't need.
Okay.
You don't need APs for.
So Claire's saying it's University College Dublin that's requiring them in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions just now at this point, or will we go ahead with the different ones that are subjects? Somebody can speak if they want to. Doesn't have to be just the chat.
Yeah, no, do speak and just interrupt, fine. So we've the APs that we're offering is being dictated quite a lot by who we've been able to find to teach them. That we want to find good teachers, and there's certainly others that we would still like to offer if we can find good teachers. So if any of you are teachers or any of you know teachers that would be interested in teaching, we're certainly still recruiting. So yeah, we've wanted and we've advertised and we've got teachers that we think are going to be really good at doing the job. So we have Amy, who's going to be teaching art history, and we've just tried to. I mean, it's like if you're not interested in art history, then like what on earth this is like means very little. But this is the kind of thing that you look at in art history. I think I think it's quite cool where I had a friend's daughter who did it last year. I think she had to learn huge numbers of paintings. There was like huge numbers of paintings that she had to learn the names for, and you have to. It's sort of like because it's like an art appreciation, so you've got to learn the names of the paintings, but then you also have to learn some sort of like context about the paintings and kind of be able to sort of like look at the paintings and analyze the paintings. The exams is part of its multiple. All APs are partly multiple choice, and then you've also got to answer. There's six essays, 2 30-minute essays and 4 15-minute essays. So there's you've got to. Part of the essays is looking at works of art. So that's what the art history one is.
And there's nothing you need before taking that
No,
prerequisites.
No. Yeah. Some of the APs there are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so AP biology, we're still working on a teacher. We've got sort of one possible lead, but it's not. So we're basically still looking for a possible person for AP biology. It's hard. I would say you've got to have done. So my son did it last year. Was it the year before? And we did it together. And I know nothing about biology. I know a lot more now than I did then. But he had done 2 years of high school biology. He did one sort of concurrently. So he'd done 1 year of high school biology and then he did another course and then also was doing the AP biology course. And it's hard. And there's also quite a lot of chemistry in it. So in terms of how it compares to an A level, I was showing like the course to sort of, friends that teach A level biology. And they were saying that some of it was actually higher than A level biology, but because it's a 1-year course, obviously the volume of it isn't as much. So it's certainly not easy. And you've got to have done some biology before, and hopefully, some chemistry as well would certainly be a plus. I think they were suggesting last year that if you hadn't done any chemistry, then you need to do some stuff in the summer on chemistry. But, obviously a gateway into a lot of science subjects. So this is our most recent teacher. She's an Irish lady, and she's been teaching in the Irish system for a long time. And I think will do a great job. Very extremely well qualified lady in this subject. I know nothing about this subject, so I find it very difficult to comment on it. I don't even know what those things are that are listed there.
Yeah.
I can tell you. So I got some information about the tell you about the exam. I can't actually. I looked at chemistry. No, I've got the chemistry. That's a bit of an oversight. Sorry, no, I can't tell you about the chemistry exam. I imagine it's 2 hours. Most of them are about 2 hours. I imagine it's multiple choice. But yeah, I mean, just have a look at the College Board is like the Edexcel or the AQA. They're the people that organise all these exams. So just have a look for AP Chemistry if that's your thing. I know we've got people that are signing up for AP Chemistry. I know they've been talking to me about it. So I know we've got some people keen on that, and we really want it to be able to offer some sciences. So this is so Liz is offering this one this year. You have to study different types of literary works. Now, because we're a Christian organisation, that was kind of important to us as to what we chose, and what, more to the point, what we didn't choose. So Liz has chosen particular types of work to do with the students, and we've got like a book list and things. So if you're interested in seeing what kind of books we're looking at with the students, we were yeah, there was just quite a lot of things that were on the College Board reading list that we didn't really want to choose. You're given a long list of books for this subject, and you choose the ones that you can pick various ones. So you have to look at poetry, and you have to look at drama, and you have to look at fiction, and you have to write essays for the exam. So you have to write some essays on work that you've looked at, and you have to choose one particular book that you I know that you study in more detail, and you have to answer an essay on that. And I know that Liz is really working the students hard. She says she says that they're doing like 2 hours a day, which sounds, I don't know where they all are, but I think she's hoping that that's how much work they're doing. So they're certainly working very hard on that subject. And I know that she's getting them to feed back to her every day about what they are doing. So they're working hard. So basically do that one. So I picked that for working hard. Roy can tell you about. Do you want to go back to?
Oh, sorry.
Go back. Roy, I think Roy can explain this one.
Great, thank you. So yes, European history is 1450 through to 2000. So it's a long spread of years, and there's quite a lot of content to be covered. So in that way, it's quite different in some ways from A-level history. A-level history, you tend to sort of zoom in on certain periods of history, but this one is you really get that whole sweep from 1450 through to the modern day. So my students who are taking European history at the moment and other subjects tell me that there's quite a lot for them to learn, but they're really enjoying it. So in terms of the standard of it, it feels quite different from A-level, partly because you've got a 55-minute multiple choice test as part of it. It's a 3-hour, 15-minute exam. It's one of the longer exams. So you have basically an hour of multiple choice questions, and then you have some short answer questions, a document-based question, and a kind of mini essay as well. And it covers, as you can see there, all sorts of different things: political, economic, social, and so on. Interesting how much work students are doing each day. I think that seems to vary enormously from student to student. So I've certainly got one student who's working probably 2+ hours a day. I've probably got others who are doing more like 2-3 hours a week on it. It slightly depends on what else you're trying to do. I think the key thing for me, and I think this is probably true for all the APs, is you've got to be an independent worker. You've got to be really well motivated. I've got a fantastic class. They are really well motivated. They really work well together in lessons as well. But most of the time, they are working through a series of videos that the College Board, who are behind all of this, produce. The College Board also provide a whole series of test questions throughout the week that you can set. So it's set up very, very well for the students, much, much better than A-level, to be honest. but you've just got to get your head down and do that. So I think it's a degree of maturity is required. All of my students this year have been 16 were the youngest when they started, so 16, 17, 18. And it feels to me that they probably need to be that sort of age in order to really make the most of it. Just to give you a quick glance of the textbook I use, it's not very well focused. It's that thick. And in fact, it's the one that undergraduates at Yale use. So it's quite a chunky thing. So I think there's a bit of a balance here. When people ask, is this an academically credible qualification? Absolutely, it is. If Yale undergraduates are using this book, then we can hold up our heads high. But on the other hand, I would say that it is a very accessible qualification too. It's something that students who've come through the classical system can move on to, fairly straightforwardly if they've got that, if they're self-motivated, and if they really want to do this course. Is that enough for the moment?
Thanks,
No,
Roy.
that's good.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, it's interesting. So you get your course approved through the College Board, and then that kind of gives you access to like whatever subject. So I teach the economics, and all the whatever it is you're doing, European like history or the human geography, and you kind of get there's just stacks of videos and stacks of tests and multiple choices and free response questions. And as a teacher, you kind of assign them week by week to the students. So the students go onto their account and it's all laid out for them. So it's very clever. I know maybe you've seen something like Google Classrooms. It's like that, but much better. So the kids can just sort of see what they're doing and work through all these videos, and it tells them then that they've watched it. And us as a teacher, if they're doing multiple choice questions, we can see what they've done, or there's also stuff that we mark on there, and the children sort of like see that it's all marked and stuff, and it's good. It is very good. As Joy said, it's a very well set up system. It doesn't mean that they're on the computer a lot. So I mean, you can certainly use books as well, but there is a fair amount that that's involved in the computer. Human geography. So my son's doing this year, so I know a fair amount about this. Kenton is a Canadian teacher. He was teaching at university in Canada, and he is also teaching this course for us. It's very interesting. I found it very interesting doing it. So you learn about, it's almost like a sort of social studies course. So we've looked at migration, we've looked at religion, we've looked at why people live in various places, looked at lots of things about maps, looked at economic development, developing countries, looked at various things like politics. We're looking at stuff today about communism and how that's led to different changes in employment. Loads of stuff about agriculture. I know a lot more about agriculture than I did. So A levels one would expect to be all of a similar standard. APs are not all to the same standard, which is very un-English or very like European to have that, or Irish, very un-European to have that. So AP Human Geography is certainly easier, or certainly regarded easier than other subjects. So they're not. It's just easier. So if you're going to do something like AP Physics, that is deemed to be much more difficult. So as the first one to do, my son's, as I say, 16. He was 15 when he started this. It seemed like a good one to do. The other thing is that as a home educator, you perhaps don't do as many exams. You don't do public exams. So if you choose not to do GCSEs, which we haven't done, then your children don't do any exams. They don't have the experience of public exams. So sometimes doing a first one that perhaps doesn't matter quite as much, or as an introduction to it, is perhaps a good thing. And that was also our thinking, that we thought, let's do this one this year. And it's like I don't know, as Roy said, it's like a big step up, and it certainly has been a big step up to try and understand it, to try and understand what you're supposed to be doing, and to work that independently. Latin. So Emily is very eminently qualified. She went to Oxford and did Latin there, and has done. She's taught Latin for several years. You have to read. You have to be able to. There's quite a lot of prerequisites. You have to have done quite a lot of Latin before you can do this one, and before you can access this one. And we suggested that you've either done Henley 2 or you've done Cambridge 4. I'm sure there's loads of other Latin programs out there that we'd have to sort of see whether that was a similar sort of standard. But you need to be able to you need to be able to read. It's a reading Latin book. Some parts of it, there are some passages that you read in the exam, and there are some passages that you study beforehand. Yes, yeah, it's easier. Sorry, I'm looking at the message in the chat. That it's easier. Yeah, it's kind of both really. So if you look at, I mean, you can just look at it online. So the number of people, so it's the grading for the APs is like 1 to 5, and the number of people that get a 5 in some subjects is many more than people in other subjects. So again, in A levels, you'd expect 5 being the highest. So you'd expect in an A level that I know the same percentage of people would get 5s in them all, but it's not for the APs. There are some subjects that there's a higher proportion of people that get higher grades or get lower grades. But yeah, the subject material in AP Human Geography is certainly easier. And because the subject material is easier, then for an academic, a bright student, they're going to hopefully do better at it.
Next one.
Yeah, the spy one. So this is the best one. This is the best one. This is the coolest one. I always think it's really funny that whatever your subject is, you always think like, well, that's by far the most interesting subject. And I personally think this is really, really interesting. But I do acknowledge that Roy probably thinks European history is really interesting, and like biology teachers or chemistry teachers probably actually think that's really interesting. Yeah, I just think it's really cool because you just learn about how the world works. Yeah, I know we're looking today about I don't know, like costs and benefits and factor costs, and how how firms decide what wages to pay their workers, and how many workers they'll employ. We look at things like why the price of cigarettes, why the government can put a lot of tax on things like cigarettes and why they can't put a lot of tax on other goods. We looked at comparing things like monopolies and oligopolies. The last thing we're going to be doing is looking at market failure, why markets don't work sometimes, and what the government can do about that, things like taxes and subsidies. But yeah, it's I think it's great. I think it's really interesting.
Sounds terribly uninteresting to me.
You have to be good. You have to be reasonably good at maths to be able to do it. I would say that you need to have done Algebra 1 or something similar, and you have to like graphs. There's a lot of graphs. Yeah, but no, it's cool. And we have Mary Stella doing this one. She's also an Oxford graduate. She's still at Oxford at the moment, teaching there. And we're interested in having another world history. So it's when we started looking at it, it was like, okay, so what do they mean by world history? Like what is modern? Because I think if you ask 5 historians what they mean by modern, and you get 5 different answers. But yeah, it's 1200 to present day, and this is the kind of how it sort of splits up. We have those kind of periods, and we haven't. I think we missed a slide about English language, which was a bit amiss.
Oh,
it's very my fault. And maybe we haven't. Maybe it'll be the end. Okay, yeah. So anyways, this is Mary. This is Mary Stella. I'm just gonna do this one. And this is I say anything about the exam part of it. Yes, there's a multiple choice exam, and you have to do a document-based question and an essay question, and 3 short answer questions for the exam for this one. Okay, this is English language.
sorry, there's a lot of information on there.
Yeah, this is the most popular. It was our most popular exam this year. We've got the wrong slide on the left of it. It's supposed to be English language, but we have no, we were trying to do this at the last minute. It's my fault. But so English language has been it's most popular AP by far. People doing it, and it was our most popular AP. John has been doing it this year. I think people think it's easy, which is why a lot of people do it. It's not easy. People often think it's a course of rhetoric. You have to do different types of essays. So there's a synthesis essay and a rhetorical essay and an argument essay, and we can read there and see what you're going to do. So you have to, some of it you're given piece of information and you've got to put a different answer. You've got to argue the different side to something. And then you've also got to look at something that someone's written and use rhetorical devices and see what, I don't know, see what they've done. I think it sounds really difficult, but John's done a great job teaching it this last year. And I think the students have really enjoyed like doing that. But it's not easy. So don't do English language because you think it's an easy one to do, because it's not an easy one to do. No, you don't have to study. A lot of Americans do this in grade 10 and then they do English literature afterwards. So that would be often American, as Roy said, that a lot of Americans do multiple APs. Some Americans do like, 7, 10 APs. And if the Americans do APs and it takes time off college, it's they'll get credit. My son this year's gone to American university and he's did his APs. He's got some college credit for them. Well done.
Sorry. There you go.
So yeah, you get college credit for them. So that's why a lot of Americans do lots of them. Why we chose APs initially, what rather than A levels? Or why American system? Why American system or why APs? I mean, we were in an American system, so it made sense to carry on with the American system. And we thought, like, why would you want to do something that takes 2 years when you can do something that takes 1 year to get that qualification?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can continue doing what we were doing because we really like what we're doing, really like the syllabus. We're signed up with the American classical program. We really like that and we really want to continue that. I know that Roy, and people, they're using classical conversations. They really like that. They're quite happy doing what they're doing, but that perhaps isn't enough to get into university. So you've got to do something else.
It's sort of the least interference to get the thing that you need to jump through the hoops that you want to jump through, but you've still got plenty of scope to what you want to do as a homeschooling family kind of thing. I guess it seems once you do A levels, they're all encompassing if you're doing them at one time, whereas with APs they can be added on to what you're doing currently, I guess. Will I go to the next one, Helen? Is that?
Yeah, please, yeah. Pre-calculus. So pre-calculus is the newest AP. So they offer 2 different types of calculus, and then they brought out a new AP, which is pre-calculus. Obviously, you've got to have done a fair amount of maths beforehand. So you've got to have done algebra 2 and geometry before you can do pre-calculus. And yeah, we seem to be a lot of Oxford graduates. So yeah, Mary's graduated from Oxford and she's been teaching. And she's going to be teaching this one for us. Again, we're just really pleased to be able to offer some maths and like STEM subjects. So we really want to be able to offer not just sort of classical like subjects.
That's the last slide of the courses that we're offering this year. Of course, there's other APs and probably other providers that will do other subjects if the subjects that you're of interest aren't here.
Yeah.
So we do have a few slides about the university entrance. Did you want to do those, Helen?
No, I think just sort of see what people want. So we've got some slides about showing you what universities want and kind of how you see what universities want, which I'm happy to share. But I don't know, like if people have questions or want to ask Roy things or please.
It's
please
1:45, so if anybody's got any questions, we can do another 10 minutes or so.
We will make results of APs known.
And yes, free to speak if you want to.
Yeah, we self-studied. My son did microeconomics with me in a class, and then the next year he did macroeconomics by himself, and we did biology by ourselves. But that was really hard. That was really tough. I mean, he got a 4, so I mean, that was just amazing. I don't know how that happened really, but he did. But we worked really hard on that. I mean, it was a big time commitment on my part to help him through that. I mean, I was like, we're doing it every day. We're doing it every day for, I don't know, for ages. So it was a big time commitment for me. So yeah, I think you have to.
And it was your subject too.
No, biology was not my subject, but yeah, we
Oh,
did.
biology, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I think human geography, I think you could do that by yourself. I think it's the same as anything, you know, if you want to and if you're motivated to, then yes, I think you could do it. But I don't think it'd be easy to do it. But yeah, I think you could, you know, yeah, in the same way you could do GCSEs or A levels, I'm sure you could do GCSEs or A levels by yourself. Yeah.
Have
Well,
any
hopefully,
others?
yeah. I mean, well, what would you be interested in? And we could try and recruit teachers. Environmental science, because that's an easy one. People say that's an easy one. I'd be really keen to have an environmental science teacher. We could find an environmental science teacher. I think that'd be quite a good one to do. A language would be quite cool. There's a possibility that someone was, yeah. So either French or Spanish. Yeah, that'd be good. Ancient or I don't think there is an AP in ancient or medieval history. I could be wrong.
No, I can come in there. Sadly, there's not. I wish
Mm.
there were one on medieval history or ancient history, but at the moment, it's there isn't one.
Yeah.
But there's various history,
No,
right?
we won't do psychology because it won't be Christian and it will be they'll be too secular. So we won't be offering psychology. That we made that decision. No, so we won't be offering. And there is a psychology, but we won't be doing that because of I just think it's it's not my expertise, but just from what I've speaking to people that are more expert than us or than I, that they just have said that then you get all this psychology that's atheist psychology in your head, then it's very difficult to then at some later point learn some other stuff that and have it out of your head. So we wouldn't want to do that. Someone said how many APs you need. Yeah, 3. I'd say not 2. Yeah, 3. I'd say 3 you need, unless you want to go to Oxford or Cambridge. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that sounds good. That'll be all the courses.
If anybody
Yeah.
wants to see, we've done it before, having we just picked like a selection of maybe 5 different universities and done a screenshot of what's on their international requirements for entry, and they are completely different, unfortunately. There doesn't seem to be a standard. They vary quite a lot.
Why don't you put them up and then we
So I
can
put those up.
Yeah, sure.
There's a couple more questions there, is there?
Yeah. How many APs? Yeah, 3. 3 UPs. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we can share our European book list.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
there's yeah, someone's asked are the APs. Yeah, so the APs are completely secular, absolutely completely secular. But we've got Christian teachers teaching them all. So, say for example, the biology, we've had a Christian teacher teaching that, and we'll continue to having Christian teachers. So what I said about a lot, so it's not going to make any difference. There's no problem with it. With the human geography, there's certainly some stuff about work. There's certainly some fairly woke stuff, and their view of population control is sterilization, abortion are 2 methods of population control, which our teacher is certainly saying, well, actually, like for your exam, you need to know this is what the College Board think, but there is another viewpoint to this, and there may be people in the class that aren't Christians and take that viewpoint, but I suppose just to say that there is actually another viewpoint to this. So there's certainly some stuff in the AP Human Geography that's quite woke, but our approach has been to make sure that we have a Christian teacher that's saying, well, this is what you need for the exam, but there is another sort of view to this. And the same with the biology, that's a very evolution approach. And again, we're saying that, this is one viewpoint, not everybody agrees with this, but this is what you need to know for the exam. ACT is it's equivalent to the SAT. So you've got the SAT exam and the ACT exam. More people do SAT in the UK than they do ACT. In America, people do both. The ACT is more sciencey, but it's a similar thing. I mean, you could do the ACT if you wish to. No, there's no statement of faith. You can be an atheist, you can be a Muslim, you can be a Hindu, you can be an agnostic. No, absolutely not. It's not. You don't know. There's no statement of faith.
Do you see that, Helen?
Yeah. Okay, so this is Southampton University. So I was looking at the questions. So what you need to do is you need to go into, if you're interested in university, you don't have to be interested in university, but if that's your, that's what you want. So you go into Southampton University and you look at international. So all universities will have an international section. Universities really want international students because they bring them lots of money. So you look at international and then you find America because you'll be going there with American qualifications. So you look at USA and then it will tell you what an American needs, and you will be applying to a British university with American qualifications, but you don't pay overseas fee, so you won't pay what the Americans pay, which is much more than a British student will pay or an Irish student. And this is what you need. So if you want to go to Southampton, and if the course required A-star AA, then you would need 3 APs, 555. These don't exist anymore, so you can't do these. And yeah, there's just more information there. Someone just asked about an AP photography or something teacher. Yeah, I mean, I don't know any. I know that, there's an organization called Pennsylvania Homeschool, and they offer like all the AP subjects. So you could certainly do it with them, but they charge about $900 for their courses. They're expensive, a lot more expensive than we are. So yeah, there are other people that charge. Well, there's other people that do APs who tend to be a lot more expensive than us. So this is Cambridge, and you can see that they've got you need 5 APs if you want to go to Cambridge. Nottingham, depends on what the subject is. They want, so, and they're just all the same. They're all the universities will have this information on. And this one, okay. So this is a lower university, Nottingham Trent. It's not as high university. So obviously there, we can see it's just a bit less what they're looking for. If you haven't, and if you want to put your email in the chat, if you want to, I know you're on our mailing list. Maybe you're on our mailing list already, but please, put your email in the chat, and we won't bombard you. I promise. We just got a new website, so please look at our new website. It's been quite a thing getting our new website together. We now have a new website, which we're very excited about.
Lots of new enrichment classes coming. We haven't got many on there yet, but enrichment classes will be there
spread the
too.
word. And if you know any teachers, then tell them to come and work for us.
Yeah.
We're very nice. Thank you. Yeah. So, we're just really excited. We really wanted to, how it sort of came about was that we started doing these courses for our own kids. And then we thought, oh, actually, there are these other people that the program that we use, there are other people, want to do these. So we started kind of 2 classes, started economics, then we started English. And it's like, actually, there's more people that want to do this. And there's certainly more and more people that are looking at these qualifications. So I thought, oh, okay. And so it's just kind of grown, really. It wasn't really a plan to begin with. But we think they're a great opportunity for homeschoolers. And we really believe in homeschooling, and we really believe that, it's to make it work, I guess, make it work for us. So anyone else, any more questions or
the only thing I'd throw in, Helen, is that
sure,
I think it really does vary for the universities quite surprisingly. So Kent University, which is I think a very good university, is only looking for 2 APs, which I found really surprising. So I think you just need to look at each individual university. It does vary enormously. So I think I wouldn't be put off by the idea that you might need to do 5 necessarily. No. I think you, depending on your child and their interests and their abilities, I think there's something for everyone here, whether they're aiming for Oxbridge or whether they're aiming for another university, or whether they're not aiming for university at all.
Yeah, I do. Yes. So we have I wouldn't say it's a Christian book list, but I would just say that it's just it's just not. So, for example, there were some books on the list that had, people having affairs or, a lot of promiscuity or something, and we just wouldn't want to read that kind of book. So, no, I'd say it's certainly not a Christian book list, but it's just a book list that we would choose not to read certain types of books. When there's just so much other literature. I mean, there's just so much literature around, and so much amazing literature around. Why would you want to read books with immorality in it? Like Jenny's answering about GPAs. Okay, English lit and English language. So English lit is reading literature. So it's reading books and studying like Shakespeare or studying books, and then being able to write about those books or being able to answer questions on those books. Or I think some of the exam is reading sort of pieces of literature and then being able to, comment on this piece of literature. But the English language, but I'd say write to the teachers. They'll certainly be able to give you a much better answer than I can. And the English language is, well, there's one essay. So you have to write. It's not, none of it's literature. The English language, none of it's nothing. No part of it is literature. So you have to do. Sorry, distracted by the question. Sorry. So for the English language, you've got to write a rhetorical essay. So you have to write an opinion. So someone writes a case about, I don't know, the global warming is wonderful or not, doesn't exist or something, and you're given 5 pieces of information, and you've got to write of differing sides of the argument, and you've got to write an essay, kind of supporting one point of view. So it's a completely different skill. You've got to write one essay, which is, you're given one argument and you've got to propose the other view of something, and another essay which I think you've got to kind of group different pieces of information together and summarize it. So, but I mean, honestly, look online or contact the teacher, because I'm sure that they're able to give you a much better explanation to me than I. Do you want to explain dumb oxide, Jenny? Someone's asked about why we're. Oh, you did. Sorry. So CC Mum, do you want to answer that one, Roy? So just to clarify, my child after finishing CC or perhaps during the last year, do we go straight to APs and bypass GCSEs, or do I need to supplement GCSEs?
Sorry, I'm just seeing the comment now. Disappeared. Sorry.
You basically don't have to do GCSEs.
Yes, okay. Yeah. So the bottom line is you don't need to have GCSEs necessarily to get into a British university. I think this is a real misconception. So I teach in a school as well. Lots of my students who are coming from, say, Hong Kong, won't have GCSEs, and yet they all sail off into university in Britain very easily each year. So it's not an absolute requirement that you have to have GCSEs. And the high school diploma, of course, which would be covered by what you're doing in CC or wherever, would give you that equivalent. So GCSEs are not absolutely necessary. So yes, you could go straight into APs, and you could be doing that just finishing. Yes, you could certainly be doing that in the last years or just after doing CC. That would work completely well. I think the only proviso here, or the only caveat I should say, is that if you're looking to do a vocational course, if you want to go to do a course at a further education college, they're less familiar with high school diploma than most universities are, just because they haven't, they don't tend to see the numbers. So they tend to be keener to have GCSE English or maths. It's not impossible. We know people who've gone to vocational colleges or done vocational courses with just a high school diploma without GCSEs. But usually the conversation just takes a little bit longer with them. But I think most of us probably who are in the UK are just used to doing that GCSE, A-level, and then university system, and we kind of think that's the only way, and it's definitely not the only way. You can very easily get into university just by going APs or possibly APs plus SAT, and it makes it easier if you've got the high school diploma as well. But the high school diploma kind of just falls into place if you've been doing a classical course, CC or Modge or whatever. That kind of it almost just happens automatically.
Okay, so I'm just answering this question in the chat. So I think what's the easier one? I think it depends on you, So I think it depends on. So personally, I feel I'm much more able to help my child with human geography than English language. But I think if your background is English language, then you're going to be able to, help with that much more. So I think it depends on what what you're able to help with and what the child's good at. I think if you've got a kid that's very good at English, then that one's going to be easier. So I think it just depends really. Which is an easier one. But personally, I found the human geography much easier and much more. I found it really interesting to help with, but not everyone's going to feel that. Yeah, I'll try and email it to you, Philippa. I think we've got your. I'll make a note. I'll try and send it to you. You do have it.
I was thinking too, Helen, I can never remember the names of them, but if people are on Facebook, and I'm sure there's many of you in the groups already, but if you aren't, there are some good groups that are worth following for different things. Can you remember names, Helen? Terrible at remembering them.
It's a college confident homeschoolers one that's like all about APs, but yeah, and there's the Homemade Success Without UK Exams one. If you're on Facebook. Right, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember the conversation, but yeah, maybe.
I think
Yeah,
things are definitely changing as
yeah,
well. It
yeah.
seems to be much more
And just so many
common to
more
hear.
kids, yeah. And
Yeah.
so many more kids have gone this route, and obviously over the years, more and more people are doing it. So, just so many more. The College Board have recognised that there's a need for more AP centres in the UK. So there's a meeting later on this year. So there's going to be another one in London, they hope. So there's just more people doing these exams in the UK.
And maybe the value of GCSEs and A levels is not as prominent as it used to be, perhaps too, it
Yeah,
seems.
yeah.
Thinking
Okay.
outside the box.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
Hope it was useful.
just get in contact because is a I don't know. For me anyway, these things like a process. I have to kind of keep coming back to it and thinking, oh yeah, I should have asked that, or wait a minute, does that really make sense? Like, was that really the case? Or I don't know. So just message us if you have any more questions.
Yeah. And you can contact us through the website too if you need to. Happy
Cool.
to answer questions.
Okay. Bye. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
And if you want the recording, let us know. We can send it out to anybody if it's helpful.